Welcome to the Insight with Giana podcast. Today, I'm joined with Sydnie Eberly, a sophomore at the University of Central Florida who's majoring in film and minoring in creative writing. We're discussing the discovery of her passion for film, her inspiration for the craft, and her process for writing scripts. How are you today, Sydnie?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Glad you're here to discuss your passion in film. We've been talking about this for a while, that you discovered your passion for film at a pretty young age, when some people, they enter college and they don't know what they want to do, what they want to major in, but for you it was pretty obvious. So how did you discover that passion?
I think when I was really young, I watched movies a lot to keep me company in that way, and I sort of found a really deep love for stories and storytelling when I was really young, and that was kind of reinforced when I got into school and started taking theater classes and then school news classes and film classes. And I think it was never really a decision. It was never some like there was never this one day where I was just like, I love film, this is what I'm doing with my life. It was sort of a series of situations that just called me closer and closer to something that was really important to me.
We both took Wired for like 4 years in high school, which was the school news. How did you decide to sign up for that class?
Well, it was originally called TV production, like the first class. And that just sounded really interesting to me, I think. I think sometimes there are situations that kind of, I don't know, it sounds cheesy, but sometimes there are situations that choose you, instead of you being like, I'm gonna do this. It's sort of like an intuition sort of thing, where it's like, part of me was like, this would be really fun, but the other part of me was like, this is like, I don't know, I feel like this is something that, is gonna bring me closer to some grand big thing.
In that class, we learned a lot about basic stuff like rule of thirds, camera angles. Do you think that progressed kind of your passion for film? Because it's like one thing to really enjoy watching them, but to make them is like a whole separate thing.
Yeah, it was crazy because it was like falling in love with a different side of someone that you never knew was there, I guess. I don't mean to make this all sound so poetic and like beautiful and life-changing, but it really was a cool moment to, sit in class. And we had a great teacher, Mr. Cooler was awesome, but it was just really amazing to have this part of my life, like movies and movies and TV, that was so important to me, and kind of get into the technicals like you were saying, and to find out like, hey, like this is really fun.
So when senior junior year rolled around and everyone was applying to college, it was like pretty much, I just need to find a college that has film in it.
Yeah, that was never a question. That was from the beginning. It was like, I just need to find the best film program that I can get into.
When you were younger, when you were watching these films, what did you gravitate towards?
I think I've always been drawn to stories more than anything. I was also a huge reader growing up, and I know that sounds so broad, like just to answer that and say, what do you like about movies? Oh, I like stories, like that's what a movie is. But I think stories with rich, like fulfilling stories, or movies with rich fulfilling stories where the characters feel like people that you know, and the journeys that they go on feel like something that you're a part of, and something that you're not just watching passively, but it like really connects with you as just a person.
What would you say is some of your favorite movies?
I love Star Wars, of course, and Little Women by Greta Gerwig is probably my favorite movie of all time. And I love Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's so fun. And I think, my favorite, everyone ring the bell. This is the best one out of the 4. Twilight. I love the Twilight saga.
You're someone who's super passionate about film. You know a lot about it. You want to do this for a career. And a lot of people brush off movies like Twilight because they think, oh, that's a bad movie. Like, it's cringy dialogue, bad actors. But it's okay to even enjoy those movies and to be like, there's good aspects in this that, like, I think maybe people just make fun of because it's like a movie for teenage girls or something.
Yeah, I think any film, I mean, film is a male-dominated industry, so any film that's, you know, caters to women or that's more feminine is going to be made fun of at the end of the day. There are, you know, it has its cringe moments, like anything does, but I mean, it's a good story, like I was talking about earlier. If you look past, you know, the werewolves and the vampires. It's pretty good.
No, yeah, I definitely agree. Little Women. You said that was one of your favorite movies of all time. Why would you say that is?
It's so, like, carefully crafted. When you look at a movie, I mean, you have to look at it through the lens of the filmmaker, where everything you see and hear is a conscious choice. And in Little Women, it's so thoughtfully put together. And you can feel, when you watch it, how much Greta Gerwig, the director, and the whole crew cared really about bringing the story to life. I mean, how many times has Little Women been done, you know? But this one sticks out to a lot of people because you have, like, a non-linear, like, story structure, which can be polarizing in any film, but logically and, like, crafting a film through chronological order is typical, but this movie is put together through, like, emotional moments. You have to watch it a few times to really get the hang of it and to really understand how the characters are feeling. It's like going to a whole another world, you know, when you watch that movie, because everything is so carefully and so lovingly put together.
That's super important, because to analyze a film like that and to watch your favorite movie or any movie over and over again, because there is so much that you will just, like, skip over. Everything in a film is, like, put there for a reason. It is thought out. So and obviously, just like food, like, everything made with love is, like, better.
Yeah.
So
and you can tell too as an audience.
Oh, definitely. You want to be a director in the future.
And a writer.
Yeah. So, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what directors actually do. What specifically you just dream about doing? You can't wait to start doing it.
Well, I'm a little bit of a control freak, so I am really excited to step onto a set. And you're never gonna find a better career for control freaks than a writer-director. That's where you get to control every part of something. Like I said before, when I was a kid, stories were super important to me. So it's really important for me as an adult to bring my own stories to life. But I'm also specifically excited to like sink my teeth into, like, every part of the filmmaking process, and just to experience all of it, and to make every single choice on set every day with care, you know, and with love for stories and for, you know, films and scripts and editing and lighting and everything. I want to be surrounded by all of it, you know? So I'm excited for every, like, single step of every day. And honestly, that's the truth.
Where do you say you get your inspiration to write scripts, or just for movie ideas, like in everyday life?
Yeah, I get a lot of inspiration from music. You know, I can't remember who said it, but it's like commonly known that like no story is original. Like every story comes from something else. So I think watching other movies is really inspirational to me, and watching how writers and directors now are breaking traditional rules, you know, but also other forms of art like music. Taylor Swift is huge for me writing, because like Little Women and like Greta Gerwig, you can tell that Taylor, she cares so much about the songwriting process, and it just shows, you know. Her songs are like stories in themselves. So listening to Taylor can be really inspirational to me, as well as a bunch of other artists, but mostly Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Do you say you have directors that inspire you as well?
Yeah. I mentioned Greta Gerwig like 15 times already because she's amazing. But Taika Waititi, you know, he's just insane with what he can do and how he can that's really what film is like manipulation. Like, you're being manipulated every time you watch a movie. And Taika Waititi is so good at knowing like the inside of someone's brain and knowing specifically when certain moments are going to enhance the experience the most and bring you to tears every time, and just being like amazingly funny.
Yeah.
You know? So he's been a huge inspiration to me.
You've done a lot of things to kind of, even outside of your traditional like high school and college classwork for film. You've done masterclass with yeah, who was the writer for Coraline. Do you do that just because you feel like you want to do something fun, or like want to better your craft?
Yeah, I've always been writing since I was in the 4th grade, I think, and even before that. It's just so, writing is something that I do. It's just like routine. It's like I go through the day, and at the end of the day I just have to write and get all of the words out of my head. So, you know, the best way you can get better at writing is just to keep writing. But of course it can be helpful to just listen to what other people have to say, especially writers who are as great as Neil Gaiman. I've taken a few film classes outside of school stuff, and you have to know the rules before you can break them, you know? So I'm kind of in that process of figuring out what works for me without breaking any rules, so I can just let myself go one day and just make something different, you know?
What exactly is your process for writing a script?
I think everyone's process is different, but mine currently is that I do a lot of work beforehand, so it's important to me that the characters are developed and there's like a strong story arc with like strong character development before I even start writing. And obviously that can change along the way, which is really fun in itself. It's important for me to know who my characters are, mostly, before I kind of write a journey for them.
I know you've said also that your school offers like a summer program in LA for film. Where do you see yourself in the future living, or?
Well, that's the question. That's $1 million question.
Yeah, definitely where film is popular.
Yeah. I'm gonna go wherever I can to do what I love. I don't really have, I mean, you know, they make movies in LA. There are a few other places that are getting popular, but it's just such a, I guess, like, transient field, you know? Like, what's going on today is not gonna be necessarily what's happening tomorrow. I'm not putting any limitations on myself. I think if I had to give you a plan today, I'd probably say I'm gonna do the LA internship program over the summer, and then hopefully, you know, get a start working with one of the companies that I interned for, but you just never really know.
That applies to a lot of artistic fields,
Yeah.
because it's not like you're going to college and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna get this office job in the city. It totally
Yeah. And that's
just
part
depends.
of what I love about it too, and I think what a lot of people love about it is I think routines, especially for creative people, routines can get pretty stifling. There's like an anxiety that comes with not knowing what's next, but there's also an excitement. It's really scary not knowing what I'm gonna be doing in like 2 months, but it's also really exciting, and there's an opportunity for something awesome to happen.
Do you think COVID has impacted your college experience or the way that you envisioned your studying of film?
Yeah, I think COVID kind of changed, like, globally, like, the way everyone thought the next few years was gonna go. For film, it doesn't change writing so much, and actually, it gave me some time in lockdown to work on that a little bit more, like the writing part of it. For college and like the production phase of film, obviously it kind of moved a lot of things online, which is too bad, because you have to be in person with people to make films. You can't do it online. My classwork is mostly remote. I'm hoping that I'll get to take some in-person classes more often soon, and so there are pros and cons to COVID, but it did change a lot about how I experienced my first couple years of college.
Thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it.
Passions for a career can be found early in life. Sometimes it can be difficult to find or to stick with. However, for Sydnie Eberly, that was not the case. Through watching movies and gathering inspiration from Greta Gerwig or Taylor Swift, she is able to create stories with vivid and realistic characters and imagery. She continues to write and study the craft of filmmaking, so in the future, she can express her love and creativity. Thank you for listening. This has been The Insight with Giana Mercado.